My name is Ethan Harper. I'm 35, live in San Francisco, and run a mid-sized tech startup. On paper, I've got it together. But I'll tell you this. None of that means anything when you're staring at your father, sitting alone in a freezing kitchen on New Year's Eve, eating a stale sandwich with a plastic cup of tap water. I hadn't planned to fly home. I rarely did for the holidays. But this year, something gnawed at me. Maybe it was guilt, maybe it was instinct. I booked a last-minute ticket to Austin, Texas, landed late, rented a car. I didn't even call to let him know, figured a surprise might lift his spirits. When I pulled up to the house, his house had felt wrong immediately. No lights on, driveway empty, porch light off. The kind of dark that makes you question whether you remembered the date correctly. I walked up slowly, suitcase wheels rattling over the cracked pavement. The door creaked open, easily unlocked, as always, and the cold hit me like a slap. Not just chilly cold. The kind of cold you get when the heat's been off for days. "Dad," I called. No answer. Just silence, so thick it swallowed my breath. I stepped inside. The place smelled neglected, like dust and something faintly sour. No decorations, no music. In the kitchen, the light was on, just that one. And there he was, my father, 68 years old, hunched over a plate with 2 sad slices of white bread and a smear of peanut butter. He was wearing an old thermal undershirt and jeans so worn the knees were shiny. He looked up, startled. Then something in his expression settled. "Didn't expect you," he said, voice low. "I figured," I replied, trying to keep it light. "Where is everyone?" He gave a half shrug and nodded toward the fridge. There, taped in the center, was a note. Handwritten in Isabel's loopy cursive. "Used your money for NYC? Watch him for the week." That was it. No love you, Dad. No Happy New Year. Just a dismissal. My blood ran cold. That $650 I'd wired it a few days before. Labeled clearly holiday dinner and gifts. I'd imagined them cooking together, maybe some music, maybe even laughter. Instead, they'd taken the money and left the man who raised us to rot in silence. Dad didn't look angry. He looked empty. I turned up the thermostat set to 58. I helped him to the couch, wrapped him in a throw blanket, and microwaved a can of chicken soup. As he sipped it slowly, his voice rasped, quiet. "They'll regret this." I looked at him. Really looked. There was something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years, clarity. I wanted to explode. Scream. But I didn't. I swallowed the rage, forced it into order. I went upstairs, unpacked, then started poking around the house while Dad slept. The guest room cold, unused. I checked the Wi-Fi logs, then the bank statements. I'd helped Dad set up digital alerts for his checking account. One popped up as I stood in the hallway. Insufficient funds for scheduled mortgage payment. I blinked. Mortgage. That had been paid off 5 years ago. Right. Suddenly, the sandwich wasn't the worst part. By morning, I'd already decided. This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was theft, calculated theft, and I was going to trace every breadcrumb. Over coffee, I asked Dad simple questions, no pressure. "How long has the heat been off?" "Few days." "Groceries?" He shrugged. "I eat what's here." There was no self-pity in his tone. That's what broke me the most. I asked if he minded me checking some things. He just nodded. And that's when I opened the drawer next to the microwave, the junk drawer. In it, a stack of unopened bills, a printed statement from Capital One with a $5,000 balance, a return receipt from Neiman Marcus, and a brochure for reverse mortgage solutions, all in his name. My pulse pounded in my ears. This wasn't negligence. This was systematic. That afternoon, I took a walk around the garage. Dust coated the lawnmower. The furnace hadn't been serviced in years. A loose shutter banged in the wind. In the back of my head, a memory surfaced me. 10 years old, holding a wrench too big for my hand as Dad showed me how to change a mower blade. Tools don't lie, he used to say. People do. Tools, they're honest. It hit me like a gut punch. Logan didn't know how to use a wrench. He never cared to learn. He had charm, though, and excuses. Always did. Medical bills, Amelia's tuition. Isabel needs new equipment for her styling business. And Dad, generous to a fault, believed them. Later that night, I checked the footage from the home security cameras I'd installed last year. Just basic ring setups, front door, kitchen, back patio. Dad had approved it. He'd even helped mount the kitchen one. As I scrubbed through the archive, my jaw tensed. There was Logan 3 weeks ago walking in like he owned the place. Isabel trailing behind, designer bag slung casually, Amelia tapping on her phone. They opened the fridge, scooped up leftovers, did a load of laundry, and left within 90 minutes. But not before Isabel rifled through the kitchen drawer. And Logan, he had Dad's checkbook. Twist 2 weeks ago. There was a video. Isabel, standing alone in the kitchen, talking to someone over the phone. No, it's fine. He barely remembers anything. We'll just say it was for Amelia's NYU deposit. He's too old to track it. That was the moment my spine stiffened. This wasn't carelessness. This was exploitation. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up organizing files, printing screenshots, compiling footage. At sunrise, I brewed another pot of coffee. Dad joined me at the table. "Did you find what you were looking for?" he asked. I looked at him. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for the mug. More than I wanted to, I admitted. He nodded slowly, then said something I'll never forget. "There's more." But I wasn't sure if anyone would care enough to find it. He motioned toward the hallway. "Follow me." We stopped at his bedroom. He pushed aside a stack of boxes in the closet, revealing a small floor safe. I held my breath. With practiced fingers, he entered the combination. The safe opened with a metallic hiss. Inside an old green tin box, battered and rusting around the hinges. He handed it to me. Been saving this for the day someone finally asked the right questions. Inside, copies of checks, loan documents, a life insurance policy naming Logan as sole beneficiary, a forged medical power of attorney, and a typed timeline, 10 years long. At the bottom, a sticky note, written in Dad's slanted hand. "Don't let them win, not this time." I looked up. He met my gaze. His eyes were tired but firm. "You ready to burn it all down?" I asked. He nodded, and at that moment, I swear I could almost hear the gears of justice begin to turn. "You ready to burn it all down?" He nodded, and at that moment, I swear I could almost hear the gears of justice begin to turn. The next morning, the sun came through the blinds in thin stripes, painting lines across the dining table where the tin box still sat, slightly ajar. I barely slept. I couldn't. The weight of it all, what my father had endured, gnawed at my chest like a blade twisting slowly. Over eggs and black coffee, I asked the question I'd been dreading. how long has this been going on? Dad didn't lift his eyes. He just stirred his coffee slowly, letting the spoon clink against the ceramic mug. Years, he said finally. Started small, a couple hundred here, 1,000 there. Mostly Logan, but Isabel, she knows how to make things disappear. He paused, exhaled deeply. After your mom moved in with them, it got worse. She'd come over, distract me, and they'd go through my files. I started copying everything. I didn't know what else to do. The shame in his voice crushed me. This was a man who once built our backyard deck with nothing but a hammer, a level, and stubbornness. Now he sat across from me, smaller than I remembered, trying to rationalize how his own family had drained him like a leaky faucet. What about Amelia? I asked. His jaw tensed. She was raised to think it was normal. I leaned back, trying to absorb the absurdity of it all. A teenager casually pocketing cash from her grandfather's wallet while her parents justified it as support. How much have they taken? I whispered. Dad looked at the tin box, then back at me. That number, it's still climbing. I spent the next 3 hours building a digital timeline, syncing the documents in the tin box with the data from his bank accounts and my saved security footage. The patterns were undeniable. $1, $200 for a Sweet 16 photo shoot 3 months ago. $5,000 withdrawn the same week Logan claimed Amelia needed to lock down her NYU deposit. $2 on 67th for a life insurance policy Logan took out in Dad's name, listing himself as the sole beneficiary. And then there was the reverse mortgage paperwork, half complete, co-signed by Logan, but with a forged notary stamp. If it had gone through, Dad would have lost nearly all the equity in his house. You never signed this, right? I asked, holding the form out. Dad shook his head. Logan brought it over when I had the flu. Said it was insurance paperwork. I refused to sign. Guess he went ahead anyway. I felt heat flood my chest. This wasn't just manipulation. It was criminal. I didn't hesitate. I called my lawyer. Well, Dad's lawyer, Elaine Roberts. She'd helped him settle a property line issue years ago. I didn't even know if she still practiced. But when she picked up, her tone was crisp and firm. You said elder abuse, she asked. Yes, and identity theft. I've got the documentation. I'm coming over, she said. Keep everything secure. Don't confront them yet. By the time she arrived, the afternoon light was dying behind the trees, casting long shadows across the front porch. Elaine was in her 60s, sharp as a scalpel, and carried herself like she could prosecute a hurricane. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. We cleared the dining table, and I laid everything out. Contracts, screenshots, footage, the life insurance policy. She took it all in with practiced silence. This is serious, she said finally. And airtight? She pointed at the forged reverse mortgage. That alone is felony-level fraud. Coupled with the forged medical POA and the ongoing financial exploitation, we're looking at a strong elder abuse case. Possibly multiple charges. Dad sat quietly as she explained the process. First, a police report, then an emergency protection order, then filing both criminal and civil actions. Criminal prosecution can take months, she said. But we can file the civil suit immediately. That will freeze their access to any jointly held assets and prevent further damage. Then she looked at me. Have they been back recently? I nodded. Thanksgiving. Took leftovers, raided the fridge, then left early to meet friends for dessert. We have them on camera. Isabel went through his checkbook while Mom distracted him in the living room. Elaine didn't flinch. "We need to act fast," she said. That night, I found myself staring at the furnace in the garage. Dust covered everything. The air smelled faintly of rust and neglect. I remembered being 12, crouched next to Dad on a cold winter morning, learning how to clean out the filter. He made me do it twice, even when I got it right the first time. Knowing how something works isn't the same as respecting it, he'd said. That stuck with me. And I realized that's what this whole thing was about. Respect. They didn't just steal his money. They stripped his dignity, his sense of self-worth. The next day, I filed the police report with Elaine. We handed over copies of everything. I didn't want revenge. I wanted protection. But I didn't expect what came next. Because late that evening, just after dinner, the doorbell rang. I checked the ring cam on my phone. My stomach dropped. Logan, Isabel, Amelia, and my mother, luggage in tow. I opened the door slowly. They looked like hell. Clothes wrinkled, eyes red, faces drawn tight from exhaustion. But Isabel still had that $1,000 Gucci purse slung over her shoulder. She was the first to speak. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted. "There was a miscommunication. We didn't think you'd actually be here." I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside so they could see Dad warm, clean, sitting on the couch with a bowl of stew, watching TV. He didn't even glance at them. The silence was thick. Amelia rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. Isabel tried again. Nightmare flights, hotel cancellations. "Our apartment had a plumbing issue. We need to crash here, just for a week." I took a slow breath. "How's your bank account doing?" I asked casually. Cards still frozen. Logan's jaw twitched. "Something weird's going on with Chase. We're working on it. You should..." I said, "Because your luxury SUV, it's been reported stolen. Registered to Dad. Payments came from his account." That was when Logan snapped. "What the hell are you doing?" he barked, stepping toward me. I held up my phone. "Smile," I said. "You're on camera." Logan's face fell. Isabel froze. Amelia, for the first time, looked up from her phone. And my mother. She whispered, "You didn't." I nodded. "Oh, I did. And this was just the beginning." I didn't flinch. Not when Logan's face went from confused to panicked. Not when Isabel's fake smile melted like cheap makeup in the Texas heat. Not even when my mother muttered, "You didn't." Because I did. I had the receipts, the files, the video, the synced chat history from the kitchen tablet they never knew was listening. I had everything. They stood on the porch like squatters who just realized the locks had been changed. Bodies frozen, too stunned to fully process that the narrative they controlled for years had finally collapsed. "You set us up," Isabel spat, stepping forward. I stayed calm. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't about to give them a single inch. "No," I said. "You set this up the day you decided to treat Dad like a vending machine with a pulse." Isabel's voice turned sharp. "We were borrowing. That's what family does, supports each other." "Did Dad know he was co-signing for loans?" I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. Logan cut in, his voice tight. "You think you're some kind of hero? You haven't been around. You don't know what it's like to actually take care of him." "Take care," I laughed once. Short and bitter. "You mean dumping him in a cold house with half a sandwich while you sipped cocktails in Manhattan?" Dad stayed silent on the couch, just watching. But I could see something shifting in his eyes, a flicker of something long buried. Resolve, maybe. Or just the satisfaction of not being gaslit anymore. Amelia, who had been tapping away on her phone this entire time, finally looked up. Her voice flat, almost bored. So what? We're criminals now. I didn't answer her. I didn't have to. They started to unravel fast. Logan stepped forward, fists clenched. I could see the flush rising up his neck, his signature move before losing control. You have no right to record us, he snapped. That's illegal. No, I said calmly. Texas law allows audio and video recording in your own home. Dad consented. You didn't know, because you never cared to ask. Isabel chimed in again, her voice shrill now. We were helping him. We kept him company, cleaned up, made sure he was okay. You maxed out his credit cards on spa retreats and new handbags, I said, gesturing to the brand new Gucci slung over her shoulder. And you, I added, turning to Amelia, used $80 of his cash for concert tickets the night you told him you had SAT tutoring. Her cheeks flushed. She looked at Logan, then Isabel. You told me that was his idea, she muttered. The tension cracked like a dry twig. Isabel spun on her daughter. Don't start. Don't start, Amelia scoffed. You dragged me into this. You said it was normal. Because it is, Isabel barked. We're family. I could feel it coming apart, years of excuses collapsing under the weight of exposure. And then my mother stepped forward, arms out like a human shield. Please, she said, eyes darting between us. Let's just talk inside. We can work this out. Not today, I said, voice hard. You're all leaving. Now. Logan's jaw clenched. You can't throw us out of Dad's house. I held up my phone again. As of 2 weeks ago, I have temporary power of attorney. You remember that, right? The papers he signed after the bank notified us of the mortgage fraud. The ones your notary friend tried to fake. His eyes darted to Dad, who gave a single, silent nod. You're bluffing, Isabel said, but her voice wavered. I opened the file on my phone, scanned it, showed it to her. You want the judge to read this out loud next week? Or do you want to leave quietly while you still have the option? They exploded. Isabel shouting about betrayal. Amelia storming down the sidewalk, swearing under her breath. Logan slamming his fist into the porch rail like a frustrated child. My mom kept her voice low, playing the sympathy card. Ethan, she pleaded. You don't understand what this will do to the family. You're tearing us apart. No, I said. You did that a long time ago. I'm just finally refusing to cover for it. Then I added, quieter Dad deserves better. That's when Logan lunged. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't cinematic. Just fast, messy, and violent. He grabbed my collar and shoved me backward. I stumbled against the doorframe. Breath knocked from my chest. My dad stood up like a man half his age. Don't touch him, he snapped. Logan turned, stunned. You don't get to hurt my son and call it love, Dad said, stepping forward, voice ironclad. Logan actually backed up. It was the first time in my life I'd seen him afraid of our father. Isabel grabbed Logan's arm. We're leaving. Now. As they gathered their bags, I gave them one last warning. You're not coming back. Protection orders already in motion. Elaine filed this morning. You come within 500 feet, you'll be in cuffs. This isn't over, Logan shouted as they stomped down the driveway. I didn't answer. Just watched them pile into an Uber. Dad stood beside me, quiet. Then he said something I hadn't heard in years. "I'm proud of you." We went back inside. The silence now felt peaceful instead of suffocating. I microwaved leftovers. We ate in the living room. No TV this time. Just two people chewing slowly, letting the quiet say what words couldn't. Then the doorbell rang again. My breath caught. I checked the camera. It wasn't them. It was Elaine. She stepped inside, eyes sharp. "I've got news," she said. "What kind of?" She held up a folder. "Good for us, bad for them." She sat down and opened it on the dining table, pushing aside the last of the stew bowls. Logan's employer, Paramount Financial, just sent over documents. He was fired 3 months ago for submitting fraudulent expense reports. I blinked. He told us he got promoted. Elaine smirked. He was falsifying travel receipts, fake client dinners, submitting Uber rides as consulting. They let him go quietly, didn't press charges. But now, they're cooperating. That explained a lot. The desperation, the sudden grab for reverse mortgage funds, the New York trip with zero income. They were drowning. And they'd tried to drag Dad down with them. Cliffhanger. Elaine flipped to the last page of the folder. A breakdown of Logan's expense fraud. Handwritten in the corner. Highlighted in red. Also attempted to expense $2,800 Gucci bag denied. Same bag Isabel had slung over her shoulder hours ago. Elaine looked up. "It's unraveling faster than I thought." "You ready to accelerate this?" I nodded once. "Let's bury them in truth." Elaine's words echoed in my mind. "It's unraveling faster than I thought." "You ready to accelerate this?" Yes. I was more than ready. For the first time in years. I wasn't reacting, I was moving forward on my own terms. Logan, Isabel, my mother, they'd always counted on one thing: silence. They bet on shame keeping Dad quiet, on distance keeping me out. But now that silence was broken, and I was done waiting. That night, I opened the old green tin box again. Not because I needed more evidence, I already had enough to file, but because I wanted to understand the man my father had become in secret. Inside, folded between tax forms and loan statements, I found a yellow legal pad on the first page. In Dad's unmistakable, all-caps handwriting. "If anything happens to me, read this first." It wasn't dramatic. It was methodical. Bullet points, dates, short entries. But as I read, I started to realize Dad had been preparing for war. He had logged every withdrawal, every forged check, every time he suspected someone had tampered with his mail. He even tracked which relatives had stopped calling after Logan told them Dad was losing it. And then I saw it March 12th last year. Logan asked again about changing my prescriptions. Says he's worried about interactions. Refused. Told him I'd talk to doctor myself. He got angry. Said I wasn't thinking straight. I stared at that line for a long time. It wasn't just financial abuse. It was control. Creeping, manipulative, potentially dangerous control. I printed out everything, compiled it into folders. One for the police, one for Elaine, one I kept in my backpack like a lifeline. The next day, Elaine moved fast. By noon, she'd filed the emergency protection order and submitted the civil lawsuit for elder financial abuse. Within hours, we had confirmation. Logan, Isabel, and my mom were legally barred from coming within 500 feet of the house or contacting Dad directly. The court had frozen their shared accounts pending full investigation. But that wasn't enough. We needed more leverage. So Elaine contacted a forensic accountant. Her name was Meredith. Mid-40s. sharp-eyed, and quiet in the way that made you nervous. She combed through every account Dad had touched in the last 10 years. Within 3 days, she found it. Offshore wire transfers. Not huge amounts, just enough to raise eyebrows. A couple thousand here, 10,000 there. All routed through a digital wallet under Logan's name. The destination a banking app tied to the Cayman Islands. It wasn't just greed. It was premeditated fraud. They were hiding the money. When I told Dad, he didn't blink. He just said, "Told you Logan always planned for an escape route. Just didn't think he'd take the whole raft." I spent the rest of that week building what Elaine called the wall. It was a timeline meticulously mapped, color-coded, annotated. On one side, every instance of theft, forgery, and coercion. On the other, every lie they'd told to justify it. The wall sat in the dining room. My father started eating breakfast in there just to look at it. Not because he liked the mess of paper, but because, for once, he could see the truth. We also found something else. In one of the storage boxes Dad had shoved in the back closet, I discovered a thin manila envelope. Inside it, an old appraisal receipt, a pawn shop ticket, and a photo. It was his retirement gift, a vintage gold watch, engraved with his name. He had lost it, he'd said years ago. Except now, we knew the truth. The pawn slip was dated 6 months after Logan lost his big client and came asking for help. The signature on the form, Isabel's. The address of the pawn shop, 10 minutes from their apartment. I clenched the paper in my hand. My throat was tight. They hadn't just taken his money. They'd taken pieces of him. His time, his trust, his dignity. That watch wasn't just jewelry. It was everything he'd earned and everything they believed he no longer deserved. I didn't say anything. I just got in the car, went to the pawn shop, bought it back for 2 on 20. When I placed it in Dad's hand that evening, he stared at it for a long time. Then he nodded, fastened it onto his wrist, and said, "We're getting it all back. Every damn piece." Elaine called that night with an update. The DA's reviewing the full file. But with this much documentation, they're leaning toward indictments. Multiple counts. Criminal charges, I asked. Fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, possibly even conspiracy. I nodded slowly. She continued. "We'll likely see a formal hearing in a few weeks. But in the meantime, we push the civil case forward. Keep them pinned down." "Good," I said. "Let them squirm." The next morning, I woke up to 3 voicemails, all from my mother. First one, soft and weepy. "Ethan, please call me. We can fix this." Second one, sharper. "You're ruining the family. Your father would never want this." Third one, ice cold. "He'll die alone, and you'll be the reason." I blocked the number, didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. But that third message, that was when I knew they were truly panicking. They weren't scared of losing Dad. They were scared of losing the control he never should have given them in the first place. And then came the last twist of the week. An email. Subject: Isabel's history. "You need to know. From Kendra, Isabel's estranged sister." I almost deleted it. But something made me stop. "Inside," she wrote, "I saw the news about Isabel skipping town before her sentencing. I'm not surprised. She's done this before." She explained how Isabel had cleaned out their parents' retirement savings at 20, then ghosted them. How she'd manipulated her first husband into signing over assets, then left him for someone wealthier. "I tried to warn Logan at their engagement party," she wrote. "He told me I was jealous." She ended the message with one final sentence. If you're still looking for her, I have her address. Elaine read the email twice, then looked up from her screen. This changes everything. She turned the monitor to show me a map. A street in Naples, Florida. A gated condo. A new name on the mailbox. Isabel had filed for divorce. Liquidated the last assets the court hadn't frozen. And vanished again. But this time, we knew where to find her. Ready to go hunting, Elaine asked. I didn't even blink. Let's bring her home. We had her. The address Kendra gave us led to a high-end condo tucked behind a row of palm trees in Naples, Florida. The kind of place where every unit had matching patio chairs and no one asked questions about your past as long as your HOA fees cleared. Isabel had changed her name. Not legally. Just on the buzzer. Belle Thomas. Cute. She'd filed for divorce from Logan while he sat in county jail, liquidated the last remaining assets right before the freeze hit, and disappeared across state lines. But what she hadn't counted on was someone keeping score. Elaine worked fast. She forwarded the Florida address to the local authorities and requested an immediate upgrade on the warrant flight to avoid prosecution. Within 48 hours, it was granted. The U.S. Marshals were notified. In the meantime, we prepared for the next battle, the courthouse. The day of the civil hearing arrived like a storm cloud in a three-piece suit. We were seeking emergency relief, freezing accounts, placing liens on future wages, and locking down every asset before the criminal case caught up. It wasn't vengeance. It was strategy. I stood beside Elaine as we entered the courtroom. Dad sat behind us, gold watch glinting under the lights. He didn't speak, but the way he squared his shoulders told me everything I needed to know. He was ready. Logan showed up with a new lawyer. Not the high-end one from earlier, a cheaper version, all polyester and attitude. He looked thinner, hollowed out. His eyes darted like a trapped animal. My mother came too, dressed in beige. Her expression set to concerned victim. She kept her distance from Logan, but wouldn't meet Dad's eyes. Amelia wasn't there. Elaine presented the evidence. Calm, precise, devastating. She outlined every transaction, every signature, every forgery. She showed the footage of Logan rifling through drawers, Isabel using Dad's credit card, Mom distracting him while checks were taken. She even played the clip of Amelia stealing the $80. Logan's lawyer tried to object, but the judge waved him off like a gnat. This isn't just mismanagement, Elaine said. This is long-term, premeditated elder exploitation, and it needs to stop now. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Harper, he said, addressing my dad. Do you want these individuals restricted from accessing your assets and property? Dad didn't hesitate. Yes, Your Honor. His voice didn't shake. The judge nodded. Gavel down. Emergency relief granted. All listed individuals are hereby barred from accessing Mr. Harper's accounts, property, or personal residence pending full investigation. Later that day, we walked out of the courthouse, breathless but lighter. We thought that was the end of it. We were wrong. She was waiting for us in the hallway. Isabel, designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, blazer too sharp for someone supposedly broke. The same Gucci purse, but this time, the shine had dulled. When she saw me, she pointed a manicured finger like a weapon. You coward, she hissed. You're destroying our lives over nothing. Elaine stepped between us. You're in violation of the protection order. Turn around and walk away. But Isabel wasn't leaving. We took care of him for years while you were gone. She snapped. You swoop in for one holiday, and suddenly you're the golden child. I clenched my fists. You left him with a cold sandwich and a note. It was just money, she shouted, voice rising. He wasn't even using it. He wanted to help us. Funny, I said. He doesn't remember signing a single one of those loan forms. She laughed bitterly. Logan said you were always Daddy's favorite. You think he didn't resent you? There it was. The truth. This wasn't about money. It never was. It was about resentment. Entitlement. The American rot that tells some people they deserve what others built simply for showing up. You know what your problem is, she snarled. You act like you're better than us. But you're just vindictive. A court officer finally stepped in, warning her once more. She turned to go, but not before hissing over her shoulder. This isn't over. Elaine smirked. Actually, it is. 3 days later, we got the call. Isabel had been arrested at a boutique in Naples, trying to use a stolen card under her new alias. The new boyfriend gone, her condo searched. Her attempt to flee added to her charges. She was extradited back to Texas within a week. Logan, upon hearing the news, reportedly tried to bribe his cellmate to lie on his behalf, claiming he was the real victim. It didn't work. My mother, she went quiet. No more voicemails. No more guilt trips. Amelia, surprisingly, reached out. She sent a short email. I didn't know. Not all of it. But I should have. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't believe her, but because sorry didn't erase what had already been done. And then, the twist we didn't see coming. Meredith, the forensic accountant, finished her report. The final number, $287,450. That was the amount stolen direct theft, fraudulent loans, misused cards, even resale of Dad's belongings. But when you added the interest, damages, and penalties, the civil judgment reached $395,000. The court ordered the seizure of all remaining assets, garnishment of future wages, and a lien on anything Logan or Isabel might ever own. They'd be paying Dad back for the rest of their lives. We didn't cheer. We didn't celebrate. We just sat at the kitchen table, Dad and I, staring at that final sheet. He turned to me and asked, quietly, "You think they ever loved me even a little?" I didn't have an answer. Instead, I handed him the gold watch. He held it up to the light, watched the second hand tick, fastened it again around his wrist. "I'll take justice," he whispered. Love was never guaranteed. That night, just before bed, I saw headlights flash through the window. A figure moved across the porch. I checked the camera. My mother, standing alone, a grocery bag in hand. I opened the door but didn't say a word. She didn't ask to come in. She just said, "Please, 5 minutes. That's all I ask." And I let her speak. But what she said, it changed everything. My mother stood on the porch, arms wrapped tight around a grocery bag. It wasn't a peace offering. It was survival. I unlocked the door and stepped aside without a word. She walked in like a ghost, hesitant, small eyes fixed on the hardwood floor. The house was quiet. The walls still bore the fading tape marks where family photos once hung, now replaced by maps of financial timelines and case notes. Dad sat at the kitchen table, the tin box and gold watch between us. He didn't look up. Not yet. Mom set the grocery bag down gently. Inside, Dad's favorite canned soup, crackers, and oddly, a new dress shirt, neatly folded. Her voice trembled. I thought maybe he'd like something familiar. I closed the door behind her. The click echoed. She flinched. "I know you've blocked my calls," she said, pulling at her sleeves. "And I know what you did." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. My pulse thudded. I remembered every time she turned away when the house got cold. Every look she gave Logan when he handed her cash from Dad's wallet. She swallowed. "I'm sorry. I never wanted it to go this far." Dad stirred his coffee, finally looking up. His eyes were steady. "I came to your house once, Mom, carrying your laundry because I thought you needed help. You let me leave with just a nod." Her shoulders sagged. She stopped. Tears welled. She looked like a child caught stealing. "Why?" I asked. "Why did you help them?" She closed her eyes. "Because I thought it was normal. Because you were never home." Her voice cracked. I was alone. I was scared. Logan promised me I was helping my child. Then he took it farther. She looked at Dad. "You meant everything to me once. But I was weak. I let them convince me you were senile, that you'd be fine if we just managed your money." Dad closed his eyes. When he opened them, he said quietly, "You know the law." Eleanor. The name felt like a fist. She flinched again. "We'll work through this," I said, surprising both of them. "I'm not here to punish you beyond what the law already will." She looked at me, hope flickering. Then she shook her head. "It's too late." The next morning was colder than usual. A late October chill settled over Austin. I watched the steam curl from my coffee mug as I prepped for the day's hearing on criminal charges. Even with civil relief secured, I wanted Dad's justice sealed by a jury, not just a judge's pen. Mom stood by the window, watching me gather files. She'd offered to help filling envelopes, running copies, taking calls. But each task felt like permission to be near this house again. So I declined. She lingered, then quietly set out a framed photo Dad in his army uniform, chest proud, standing beside a younger me, goggles on my forehead, wrench in hand. The moment before I clumsily tightened a screw and learned that tools don't lie. She placed it on the shelf by the door. I found it while packing. She said, "I thought you might want it." I nodded, choked back the lump in my throat. It was a memory untainted by greed or betrayal, a symbol, once more, of who he really was. At the criminal arraignment, the courtroom felt cavernous. Prosecutor's office staff filled one bench, Logan's attorney the other. Dad and I sat together. He wore the new dress shirt from Mom, a deep blue that brought out the silver in his hair. He looked dignified. Logan entered, flanked by deputies, handcuffed. His eyes met mine for a moment, full of something between hatred and desperation. Beside him, my mother watched, face pale. The judge read the charges: identity theft, elder financial exploitation, forgery, conspiracy. Logan's attorney didn't contest it, but asked for bail. Prosecutor objected. The judge denied bail, citing flight risk. Logan's face drained. He mouthed, "Mom." Mom's shoulders fell. Guilt twisted her features. Later that afternoon, Dad and I returned home. The house felt emptier. Mom wasn't there. I assumed she'd gone. I found her in the guest room, packing the rest of her things, black trash bags, half filled. She looked at me, tears brimming. "I'm going away," she said. I can't stay here. This isn't my home anymore. My heart twisted. Where will you go? She didn't answer. You can stay, I said softly. We can figure it out. She shook her head. I need to see what Logan does next. I have a right to see Amelia. Amelia? My niece. The teenager who'd taken $80 like it was nothing, thinking it was normal. I thought of her angry, broken, confused. If you go to Amelia, I said, you're violating the protection order. She closed her eyes. I'm a grandmother. I have rights too. No, I said. The court protects him from all of you right now. No exceptions. She stared, unshed tears shining. Then she packed the final bag, slung it over her shoulder, and walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned to Dad. I'm sorry, Richard, for believing them over you. For everything. He nodded once, slow and deliberate. Then she walked out that night. Dad and I sat on the porch, the gold watch ticking softly in the dark. The cool air smelled of rain to come. He sipped his tea and said, I miss her. I nodded. Me too. He paused, then whispered, This justice we've served, will it bring her back? I folded my hands. Maybe not, but it brings you back. He looked at the watch and my dignity. Twist at midnight. The phone rang. Not Dad's cell, it was the landline. Dad, it's Amelia. My heart lurched. She'd called me twice before and never left a voicemail. Now her voice, shaky, came through. I need help. I'm in trouble. I glanced at Dad. He straightened, resolve hardening. Where are you, sweetheart? Her voice cracked. I'm at the mall. I blinked. The big, bustling Oakwood Mall in Austin, where dozens of teens waited to catch the last bus, where security cameras lined the halls. She didn't stay on the line. I looked at Dad. She didn't say. He grabbed his coat. Let's go get her. I jumped up, grabbed my keys, but then paused. Mom's black bags were gone. No sign she'd ever been there. A twist. Right when I didn't need it, Mom had chosen Amelia over Dad. Or maybe the opposite, Amelia had called Mom, not me. Dad opened the door. We go now. I nodded. We ran for the car. As we pulled into the empty mall parking lot, Katie, my sister's voice, crackled over the phone. Amelia's not here. Dad and I stared at each other in the headlights. She never made it, and that's when I realized the abuse wasn't over. It had just taken a darker turn. That evening, Dad and I stood beneath the flickering lights of Oakwood Mall's entrance, the glass doors whispering shut behind us. My heart hammered so hard, I thought it might shatter my ribs. The parking lot was empty, no sign of Amelia. No sign of Mom, but the echo of her words still rang in my ears. She never made it. We crossed the tile floor, Dad's hand tight on mine. His grip was steady, but I could feel every pulse beneath his skin. The mall was a cavern of muted announcements and distant chatter, an ironic stage for our worst fears. I checked my phone again. No messages from Mom, no texts from Amelia. Just that voicemail snippet. I cleared my throat. Let's check the security office. We found the security desk tucked near the food court. A bored guard looked up from a crossword puzzle. I flashed him the court order. We need the camera logs. Now. His eyes widened at the paperwork. He keyed a few commands. The screens flickered to life endless corridors, shop entrances, escalators, We watched, heart in throats, as a tiny figure emerged on camera, Amelia, in her blue school jacket, walking briskly past the Starbucks kiosk 2 hours ago. "She's heading toward the north wing," Dad said, voice low. "That way." We followed the footage, winding through corridors lined with mannequins and holiday banners partially unboxed for Thanksgiving. I thought of every moment she'd been at Grandpa's house, helping him stir soup, clearing the dinner table, and how quickly she must have felt abandoned. Up ahead, the camera caught her pausing at the bookstore, staring at a display of campus guides. She reached out, touched the College of Literature pamphlet, then dropped her backpack and sank to her knees. I could almost see her thinking, maybe if I pretend I didn't know, maybe they'll stop everything. We sprinted through the mall, boots echoing. I kept glancing at Dad, his steps sure, despite older joints. We rounded a corner and saw her tiny, huddled by the shelf, tears streaking her cheeks. "Amelia," Dad called gently. She looked up, eyes wide. At first, she recoiled fear, shame, 100 emotions wrestling across her face. Then she recognized us. "Grandpa," she whispered, crawling into his arms. He rocked her gently, like he used to when I was a scared kid after my first fall from a bike. He kissed the top of her head. I knelt beside them, heart cracking. "It's okay, sweetie," I said, wiping her tears. "You're safe." She glanced up at me, voice shaking. I tried to call Mom, but she didn't answer. Her lip trembled. I was scared. I kept my voice steady. "You did the right thing. You reached out." Dad looked at me, worry etched into his features. "Is Mom?" I shook my head. "I'm not sure. But right now, you're with us." Amelia hugged Dad's leg. I closed my eyes, relief washing over me. But before I could savor it, a new thought struck. "Where is she, my mother?" "Let's call security," I said quietly. "Maybe she tried to follow you here." The guard arrived, swept Amelia into a gentle escort toward the front desk, and then went off to review the cameras. Dad and I waited in the soft glow of mall lights, the symbol of our journey, his gold watch pulsing on his wrist. It had reclaimed more than time. It reclaimed dignity. Moments later, the guard returned. No sign of a woman matching her description, entering or exiting. He said, "But there's something." He handed us a printout, a single frame from the north parking lot camera, Mom's silhouette, carrying 2 grocery bags, heading toward a dark SUV, her back to us, disappearing into the night. Dad's hand tightened on my arm. She tried to find Amelia, and then she left. I swallowed hard. The betrayal had come full circle. Mom had helped them hurt Dad, then tried to rescue Amelia, then disappeared, leaving us to pick up the pieces again. I placed a hand on Dad's shoulder. "We're a team," I said. "Just the 3 of us now." He nodded, eyes misting. "Family is what you make of it." That night, back at home, we settled into the living room. The tin box and the pawn slip lay on the coffee table, a testament to years of scheming. The gold watch sparkled on Dad's wrist, a beacon of resilience. Amelia curled up on the couch, clutching a hot cocoa. She asked about the watch. "Grandpa, how did you get that back?" He smiled softly. "Your father made sure it came home." Her eyes shone with new respect for me, for him, for what it meant to stand up for someone you love. Elaine called with the news the criminal indictments against Logan and Isabel were formally filed. A trial date was set. The civil judgment would enforce restitution. Mom's whereabouts remained unknown, but the protection order still stood. As we hung up, I looked at Dad and Amelia. My heart swelled with a cautious hope. I reached over and opened the tin box one last time. Inside were those handwritten notes, the evidence of a lifetime of endurance. I took out the yellow legal pad, the page that read, "Don't let them win. Not this time." I showed it to Dad and Amelia. "You see this," I said. "This is why we kept fighting." Amelia traced the words with her finger. "I'll remember." This story isn't just about money. It's about respect, about how far some will go when they think the system or their family owes them more. It's about a father's quiet strength and a son's fierce loyalty. And about a granddaughter finding her own courage. We reclaimed a life that was being stolen one document at a time, one courtroom at a time. But the real victory, we rebuilt our family on our own terms. What would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you believe justice starts with one brave step, hit like. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life dramas and tales of redemption. Because sometimes, the biggest battles happen at home and the toughest victories are the ones that bring us back to ourselves.